There's a verse in the Bible that carries the code of manifestation, yet almost no one has ever told you about it. Not because it's hidden, but because it challenges everything the system wants you to believe, that you must suffer, beg, and wait. But this verse teaches the exact opposite. It reveals how God creates, and how you can create in the same way. And when you grasp this, faith becomes technology, prayer becomes command, and reality begins to obey you. I'm talking about Romans 4:17, and you've never heard it like this. But when you do, you'll understand why your life hasn't transformed yet, and how to make that transformation happen now. It reads quietly, like just another verse. But when the soul is ready, it explodes in the chest. Because it reveals something that challenges everything you've learned. God calls things that are not as though they already are. This isn't doctrine, it's code, it's spiritual technology. It's the creation pattern of the Creator himself, available to those who recognize themselves as being made in his image and likeness. This verse isn't a nice idea, it's a key. But it doesn't open doors for everyone. It only answers those who have awakened their spiritual identity. Those who still live as spiritual orphans will find it excessive. They'll call it arrogance. But those who understand they are heirs, not beggars, feel in their hearts, this is for me. Active faith doesn't wait to see in order to believe. It calls forth, vibrates, and sees everything bow. Because it understands the movement. First you emanate, then reality responds. This code is screaming, stop begging like someone separated from God, and start calling forth like someone who lives united with the Spirit of the Creator. The invisible world already recognizes you, but reality only bends when you take your stand. The field doesn't respond to your desperation. It responds to your coherent vibration. The entire universe is listening, but it only obeys those who speak with spiritual authority, those who emit the frequency of already is, those who act with anticipatory gratitude for something that hasn't yet arrived, but already is. Want an example? Instead of saying, I urgently need money, change it to, I am supplied in all things. The manifestation of wealth is already on its way. But don't just say the words. Declare it as one who has already felt it, as one who has already seen it, as one who knows it, because faith is living as if you already have it. This is the spiritual neuroscience that Jesus taught even before science discovered it. Emotion plus intention creates reality. And modern physics has only confirmed. The body responds to the field, and not the other way around. Romans 4:17 isn't meant to be memorized. It's meant to be lived. It's a living word for those who want to break free from theory and embody the verb. It's for those who have understood that the miracle isn't an exception. It's the pattern. You weren't called to survive. You were called to manifest the glory of God in the material realm, to summon healing, provision, and liberation, not because you deserve it, but because you've already been set free. You just need to assume your vibrational position and speak as a child, as a co-heir, as a divine co-creator. But then comes the question no one likes to face. What if everything you've learned about faith is only half the truth? What if the key isn't just to believe, but to call forth with identity? Because the faith that moves mountains doesn't dwell in waiting. It inhabits action. And this revelation becomes even clearer when we delve into the next truth. What truly makes faith work? Because faith that doesn't manifest is just noise. There are many people with good hearts, on their knees, but with their lives stuck. They pray, fast, weep, and remain in the desert. Do you know why? Because they were taught to practice a passive faith, where they expect God to do everything while their hearts vibrate scarcity. But the faith that works is alive, active, aligned with heaven. It vibrates what it wants to see. It doesn't ask. It already gives thanks. Because it understands that it's not about deserving. It's about frequenting the frequency of abundance. People like Napoleon Hill, Neville Goddard, Joe Dispenza, they all said the same thing, each in their own way. You attract what you are, not what you want. They merely put modern language on something that was already written millennia ago. Faith is not religion. It is applied spiritual science. It is the power to imagine with feeling, to declare with intention, to sustain the vision even without seeing anything yet. This isn't mysticism. This is the physics of manifestation. It is the spiritual technology that sustains the heavens and the earth. If you want to see your life change, you need to stop treating faith like a lottery ticket and start treating it as an instrument of co-creation. Faith isn't waiting idly. It's acting in the name of what you know is already yours. A practical example: if you are praying for healing, change your speech. Start declaring, "My body is in the process of regeneration. The divine presence dwells within me." And feel it, vibrate it, breathe it. It is in this state that the miracle happens, because the quantum field recognizes the command. What hinders most people is the disconnection between what they say and what they truly feel. They speak of miracles, but they vibrate doubt. They clamor for prosperity, yet they vibrate with the fear of not paying rent. And in this, the field picks up the emotion, not the pretty words. Vibrational faith works because it unites declaration with authority and coherent vibration. It's as if the universe is saying, "Now you're speaking my language." Because the point of attraction always stems from feeling, not theory. Living faith has the tone of certainty. It's the kind of faith that walks into a room and the atmosphere shifts, not through shouting, but through divine frequency. Not through effort, but through alignment. When you learn to vibrate before you see, the material world begins to reorganize itself around you. Health improves, money comes, peace settles in. Because reality always responds to what you become. Remember, you are the living promise, not an attempt to be worthy. And perhaps what's missing for your faith to truly work isn't more prayer, but more identity. Because the faith that calls forth miracles is the one that springs from those who know who they are. And when you understand this, you begin to see God not just as an answer, but as a model. A father who calls the invisible as if it already exists. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. God doesn't act on impulse. He creates through intention. And the most impressive thing is that he doesn't wait to see before declaring. He calls things that are not as though they already were. Not as poetry, but as a pattern. A divine, unshakable, eternal pattern. And if he acts like this, why don't you? That's the question that changes everything. Because when you understand that you are in the image and likeness of God, you realize you are authorized to create in the same way, through the living word, sustained by a coherent vibration. This calling that God does is not casual. It's a creative act, an energetic emission that shapes the invisible until it becomes matter. This is where spiritual neuroscience meets biblical revelation. Because science has already proven the brain doesn't distinguish between imagination and reality. When you visualize with emotion, your body responds to the field as if you were already living it. And this is being a divine co-creator, someone who operates like the Father, with active faith and anticipatory gratitude. Think of a pregnant mother. She doesn't yet see the baby, but she already talks to it, buys clothes, prepares the nursery. She calls what is not yet, as if it already were. This is creative visualization with symbolic action. It's living by faith, not by the absence of doubt, but by the presence of identity. And this is the faith that activates manifestation. The field doesn't react to fleeting thoughts. It responds to authoritative declarations, delivered by one who embodies the truth of what they proclaim. The secret lies in ceasing to mirror the world's despair and commencing the imitation of the Creator's Spirit. God doesn't seek the chaos's permission. He speaks, and the chaos obeys. He doesn't negotiate with reality. He transforms it. And you have been summoned to do the same. When you declare, "I am prosperous," the field begins to vibrate at that frequency. It doesn't matter if your account is in the red. The frequency of abundance doesn't hinge on the balance. It depends on the seed you sow with your mouth and your soul. Do you desire an exercise? Today, dedicate 5 minutes to declaring aloud, "I summon peace. I summon healing. I summon provision." But speak as God speaks, without hesitation, without imploring. Speak as one who already sees, as one who carries the spiritual inheritance of the Father. Repeat this for 21 days and observe the field yielding. Because the universe doesn't respond to doubt, it responds to conviction. And that conviction springs from a profound truth. You are an extension of divine consciousness in human form. Now, if God has bestowed upon you this blueprint, this code, this creative language, why do you still live awaiting the miracle instead of summoning it? The answer lies in the order of manifestation, and it's here that many misstep. Why? In the reality of the Spirit, everything unfolds in order. First you summon, then you see. First you declare, then the world responds. But what does the majority do? They wait to feel secure before declaring. They wait for the door to open before professing trust. However, active faith follows a different logic. It speaks beforehand, vibrates beforehand, acts beforehand. Because it has grasped the code, vibration precedes evidence. And what appears to be madness to the world is spiritual wisdom for those who walk with God. External reality is not sovereign. It is a reflection of what vibrates within you. The world is merely returning to you what you are unconsciously emitting. That's why praying in desperation doesn't manifest miracles, because the quantum field doesn't respond to your need. It responds to your frequency. If you emit fear, it delivers more reasons to fear. If you emit conscious prosperity, it orchestrates the path for its manifestation. Simple as that. Precise like a spiritual mathematical code. You know that person who perpetually says, "When I have peace, I will be grateful"? Invert that now. Begin to emit anticipatory gratitude. Say, "I am grateful for the peace that is already mine," and watch your environment shift. The spiritual order demands positioning. It's futile to act as an emotional supplicant, expecting to reap a king's life. You are not here to seek the world's permission. You are here to command the field with your divine presence. Reality responds to your spiritual identity, not your deficiency. And that's why so many people become frustrated with faith. Because they are attempting to manifest something with a misaligned heart. They desire prosperity while vibrating scarcity. They yearn for love while feeling unworthy. They seek healing while declaring illness every day. But the universe is not moralistic. It is precise. It does not deliver what you claim to want. It delivers what your energy has already assumed to be. Therefore, more important than what you desire is what you vibrationally embody every day. Want to align your vibration with the right order? Do this practical exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down everything you want to experience, but write as if you are already living it. Then read it aloud, feeling each word. Declare, "I call all of this into being now," and do this every day. Not as a ritual, but as a realignment. Because the body needs to believe for the mind to obey. And it is in this cycle of intention, emotion, and speech that the field moves. Reality obeys vibration. And when you begin to live this way, something changes internally. You stop chasing after things and begin to be the kind of person who naturally attracts what once seemed unattainable. But why does this happen?
Because now you understand. It's not about what you want. It's about who you have become. And this leads us to the next point. The true core of manifestation, vibrational identity. This is the turning point that changes everything. You don't manifest what you desire. You manifest what you believe you already are.
The field doesn't respond to your dreams. It responds to your daily vibration. If you want to experience freedom but vibrate guilt, reality delivers more imprisonment. If you want abundance but see yourself as small, the universe respects your self-image. Because before being an experience, manifestation is an extension of your spiritual identity. It's not about wanting, it's about assuming. What have you been calling into your life without realizing it? Because everything you repeat with emotion, whether positive or negative, is creating. I'm unlucky. Nothing ever works out for me. I'll never get out of debt. These phrases aren't mere lamentations. They are authoritative declarations, even if unconscious, and the field obeys. Now, imagine the power you wield when you begin to declare the opposite with faith and presence. I am favored. Everything conspires in my favor. Financial healing has already reached me. Manifestation is born from the coherent vibration between thought, emotion, and word. When these three forces align, the field has no choice but to respond. That's why Jesus said, "If you believe in your heart and do not doubt," because he knew that external reality is a reflection of the internal, and science today confirms it. Emotion plus intention, manifestation. This is the code that unites heaven and earth, promise and experience, the invisible and the visible. Want to activate your vibrational identity? Then practice this. Every time you think, "I don't have," replace it with, "I call forth." If you look in the mirror and see scarcity, declare, "I am the frequency of abundance." And repeat this until your body begins to believe. Remember, the body needs to believe for the mind to obey. Use affirmations like seeds and water them with emotion. Not because you're trying to convince the universe, but because you're teaching yourself who you already are in spirit. You are the type of person who can enter an environment and change everything just by your presence. That's not vanity. That's awakened consciousness. It's knowing that you carry within you the same spirit that calls things that are not as though they already were. It's ceasing to beg for the miracle and starting to be the vibration that attracts it. Because the world responds to those who know who they are. It doesn't matter where you came from. What matters is what you decide to vibrate now. And that is precisely why so many stories of transformation emerge when someone decides to live the faith of Romans 4:17 in practice. Ordinary people with stagnant lives who began to declare differently, vibrate differently, and watched everything change. But does this really happen? The answer lies in the testimonies. Theory inspires, but it's the testimony that convinces. Because when you hear someone like Eliane saying that she spent years trapped in debt and that everything began to change when she declared with faith, "I call forth my financial freedom," something ignites within you. She didn't win the lottery. She didn't receive an inheritance. She just changed the vibration of what already is. She began to declare as one who knew, not as one who begged. And today, she lives what she once only dared to dream. There was also Anderson, who bore a cruel diagnosis and a broken soul. He recounts that he heard about Romans 4:17 by chance, but nothing is by chance. He began to declare, "I call forth my healing. I am healthy." He did this every day, with tears, with pain, but with anticipatory gratitude. Within 3 months, the exams showed what the spirit already knew. The body obeys coherent vibration. Active faith doesn't argue with the impossible, it transforms it. Carlos, unemployed, began practicing creative visualization. He imagined the work environment, the smell of the office, the sound of the keyboard. He wrote on the mirror, "Employed and favored." He read that as a manifestation code every day. 2 weeks later, he was called for an interview. The following month, he was hired. Coincidence? Or was it the quantum field responding to the frequency of someone who finally understood who they were? Juliana, Sandra, Renato, Mara, each with a pain, a weight, an emptiness. And all with the same turning point, when they stopped asking like those who doubt and began to call forth like those who inherit. They stopped treating reality as an enemy and began treating it as a mirror. They changed from within, and reality, as always, just followed suit. Because the miracle is not an exception. It is the standard for those who have understood the spiritual identity they carry. Perhaps you are hearing this with a lump in your throat, feeling that these stories could be yours. And the truth? They can be. There is no person more spiritual or more chosen. What exists is people who have understood the physics of manifestation and have begun to apply spiritual technology with faith and decisiveness. Heaven has no favorites. Heaven has listeners. The field has no prejudice. The field has a vibrational response. But there's a detail that all these testimonies have in common. They stopped asking. They all learned to call forth. And it is this subtle yet profound difference that changes the course of your story. There is an invisible line that separates the beggar from the heir. Those who live by asking vibrate lack, absence, separation. But those who call forth vibrate possession, authority, certainty. When you ask, you place yourself below. When you call forth, you position yourself as a divine co-creator, as someone who has already understood their spiritual inheritance. And that is what activates the field. Heaven does not respond to supplication. It responds to spiritual identity. God is not deaf. He is waiting for you to speak as a child, not as a beggar. The language of heaven is not desperation. It is conviction. Thy will be done is not a surrender. It is an alignment with the greater plan. Yet within this covenant, there is room for you to actively and faithfully summon that which heaven has already released. This is why Jesus never said, "Ask for healing." He said, "Rise, take up your bed and walk. Your faith has saved you." It is always a declaration of authority, not an emotional plea. Because he knew, the vibrational field responds to those who vibrate certainty, not lack. Let's be practical, shall we? Examine your prayer today. Is it a lament or a summons? Instead of saying, "God, please help me pay the bills," try declaring, "Everything is provided. Provision has already reached me." Speak this aloud, even if it seems untrue. Because in the spiritual realm, you do not speak what you see what you speak. This is living Romans 4:17 with maturity, calling things that are not as though they were until the field aligns with your faith. The key lies in coherent vibration. You can utter 1,000 beautiful words, but if your heart is still filled with fear, the field captures the fear. The universe does not move by grammar. It moves by energy. And that is why so many people become frustrated. They are saying, "I trust," but feeling dread. They are speaking, "I am prosperous," but acting as though they are about to sink. The secret? Aligning feeling with declaring. Because when the spirit, mind, and body vibrate in unison, the miracle cannot help but come. This is not merely spiritual, it's scientific. Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, all explain this in different words. Your internal state alters the external field. This is spiritual neuroscience. You call forth with emotion and intention, and the material world begins to obey. Because reality obeys vibration. You are not speaking to the wind, you are coding matter with your faith. And when you understand this, you stop imploring, and you begin to co-create. And do you know what is most incredible? Science itself has already begun to confirm that this is not blind belief, it's a quantum pattern. In other words, the Bible and science are saying the same thing, and that's what we're going to delve into now. For a long time, Faith and science were treated as enemies. But those who have awakened their consciousness realize that both are saying the same thing with different vocabularies. Romans 4:17 is not just a spiritual affirmation. It is a precise description of how the quantum field works. God calls things that are not as though they were, and modern physics proves the observer changes the observed. That is to say, what you focus on, feel, and declare begins to reorganize itself. Joe Dispenza speaks to this when he teaches that emotion plus intention is manifestation. Bruce Lipton explains that your beliefs affect your biology. Bob Proctor used to say that you attract what you vibrate, not what you desire. All of this is a scientific echo of a millennia-old spiritual truth. Reality responds to identity, and when you vibrate with clarity, when you declare with faith, when you act with awareness, the invisible begins to take shape. And it's not a miracle, it's spiritual technology in action. It's like a song playing at a specific frequency. If your body and your spirit are misaligned, you don't tune in. But when your vibration elevates, everything begins to change. Your mood improves, doors open, the right people appear, because the body responds to the field and the field responds to you. Faith is not superstition. It is the physics of manifestation. And when you understand this, praying, declaring, visualizing, everything becomes a conscious act of creation. Want to apply it? Start using science to your advantage. Before bed, enter a state of deep gratitude and visualize what you desire as if you were already living it. The body will begin to release chemicals as if it were real. This changes your vibration, and the field begins to respond. Don't expect to wake up motivated. Program yourself before you sleep. Your subconscious doesn't differentiate between dream and reality, so use that window wisely. This is applied spiritual neuroscience. When you unite the living word of the Bible with the understanding of science, a new level of manifestation opens up. You cease to be a spectator of life and become an author. You stop repeating verses without understanding and begin to live the code of prosperity. Because now you not only believe, you vibrate. You don't just wait, you call. And everything begins to align, not by chance, but by purpose. And for those who have already understood this, a natural next step comes, aligning the body with the spirit, making visible what is being vibrated. And that's where symbolic rituals come in. Simple yet powerful gestures that activate the field and seal the manifestation. There's something profound that happens when you act as if you already are. Your body begins to believe, your mind silences fear, and the field captures the message. He already knows who he is. That's why symbolic actions have so much power. They are not esoteric nonsense. They are visible manifestations of invisible faith. When you inscribe paid bills on an empty folder, you're enacting more than a pretense. You are emitting a divine frequency that declares, "It is already so." One of the most potent examples arises from individuals who have adopted their future identity. They have exchanged the garments of fear for the posture of faith. Sandra, for instance, affixed to her mirror the affirmation, "I am a prosperous businesswoman." Even while unemployed, she dressed the part. She prepared her coffee as if for a business meeting. And the universe responded. Because when the body enters the game, the mind has no choice but to follow. This is the body responding to the field. Complete alignment. Another impactful symbolic ritual is the daily declaration before a mirror. But not just any way. It's with a steady gaze, hand on the heart, and words imbued with the weight of truth. I am healthy. I am loved. I am guided. This is not merely self-help. It is mental reprogramming allied with spiritual identity. What you speak before the mirror transforms into the image that the field perceives as real. And the field always returns what you vibrate, not what you hope for. The vibrational seed planted in these symbolic acts grows in silence. But it grows. Because each of your gestures is a prayer, each movement a declaration of faith. By lighting a candle, opening the Bible to Romans 4:17, or even tidying the house as if awaiting good news, you are telling the universe, I am already ready. And the world responds, because vibration precedes evidence, always. Do you seek a challenge? Choose a ritual and repeat it for 21 days. It could be something simple, like writing every day, I call forth my new reality. Or wearing the first piece of clothing you would wear if you were already living the manifestation. You don't need to understand how. You only need to move as if. Because in the spiritual world, symbolic action is prophetic action. You move the field with what you live, not just with what you desire. And when you position yourself this way, as someone who lives the invisible with naturalness, everything within you begins to realign. What was impossible begins to seem near, and you realize you are ready to assume the role of who you truly are, a spiritual heir who was made to declare, call forth, co-create, and live the supernatural as natural. See, there comes a moment when the spirit no longer accepts living as a beggar. It's as if something within says, you were not made to grovel for blessings, but to call forth that which is already yours. And it's true, because you are not just anyone. You are an heir to the kingdom, a carrier of the very essence of the Creator. The Bible doesn't call you a servant, it calls you a child. And a child doesn't beg, a child inherits. A child speaks with spiritual authority, even in silence. Your spiritual identity is the starting point for all manifestations of wealth, healing, peace, and purpose. If you still perceive yourself as someone who needs to earn, you will continue to live in a cycle of scarcity. But when you understand that you already carry the divine presence, that the Spirit of the Creator dwells within you, your tone changes, your posture changes, your vibration changes, and everything begins to align with this new self, the one who doesn't need to prove anything because they already are. God didn't put you here to survive. He put you here to govern. Not in the sense of dominating others, but over yourself, over your field, over your creation. And that begins by understanding that your word has weight, your mind has power, and your faith is spiritual technology. You are not the result of chance. You are a divine co-creator, made to give form to the invisible with your voice, with your heart, and with your vibration. Want to live this? Start asking yourself every day, how does someone who already lives the life I desire act? Dress like that person. Decide like that person. Speak like that person. The secret lies there. You don't manifest reality with brute force. You manifest with a frequency of abundance. And that frequency is born from your vibrational identity. It is this that opens pathways, attracts connections, and transforms your environment. Because the spiritual world recognizes authority and responds to it. From now on, every time you declare something, remember, you are not casting words to the wind. You are activating codes. You are calling forth what already is. You are walking as one who carries the name of the Father, the mind of Christ, and the power of the Spirit. You are the living promise. And if you begin to act as such, reality will have no choice but to yield, because the entire universe bows to the truth vibrated by those who know who they are. And if everything you've heard so far seems new, great, because it is the new that transforms. But perhaps what you need more than knowing is to apply. So, let's talk about this. Let's take a step further. How to apply all this knowledge in your real practical life every day. Tell me, after all this, are you still going to keep waiting for a miracle to fall from the sky? Or are you going to start summoning as one who knows they are already an heir? Because the truth is, the life you desire won't arrive through merit. It will manifest through your vibrational identity. And this isn't theory. It's a spiritual law. It's the Bible. It's science. It's a decision. The field is listening. but it only responds to those who vibrate with intention, with living faith, with spiritual authority. So, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you keep it, forget it, or apply it? Will you continue saying, I can't? Or will you begin to declare, I am the living promise, I am provided for, I call forth what is mine? Because now you know, the universe doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you are. And if you change within, everything changes without. There's no way it can fail. Vibration precedes evidence. What rituals will you begin today? What word will replace the one that holds you back? Tell me in the comments. Tell me what most impacted you in this video. I read everything, I always respond, and I'm on this journey with you. Because you are not alone. There's an invisible army ready to act, but it needs you to call upon it. So call now, declare now, live now. And if this video awakened you in any way, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and share it with those who also need to access this code. Here you won't find religion, you'll find applied spiritual reality, living identity, and transformative wisdom. This is just the beginning, and the next video will take you even deeper.